And I want to thank everybody for joining in. This is the last of the 4 shows we've done, the live shows, and we're talking about Thursday's agenda. So that's November 10th's agenda. Let me quickly introduce who I am. I'm Jenn Nelson. I am Wine Antics, or at least the face behind it. I am a live stream producer and all-around wine lover. We're going to go around the horn and quickly introduce who everybody is. And then before we move right into the sessions, I got a couple really neat, super exciting videos to share with everybody. So let's start off with January, and we'll see what she's drinking now.
Well, we'll start with that. I am drinking the Becker Jolie, which is one of my new favorites. They say rosé is for spring and summer, but I feel like it's year-round my entire life. So Sticking with the Becker Jolie tonight, because we're going to talk about them for lunch. A little bit about me. I mean, y'all have heard about me, I think, the past couple of weeks. So I'm the executive director for Texas Hill Country Wineries. I've been in the wine industry since 1991. I grew up in it, and it's what I know and what I love, and it's pretty great.
Awesome. Okay. Well, next to January, we have Paul from Balzac PR. Let's go with
Balzac Communications.
Communications. Thank you for correcting me. Yep. Please take a moment and introduce who you are a little more than me butchering your company.
No worries. We're the sort of leading PR firm that specializes in the wine industry, and we represent everybody from major clients in Napa and the rest of California to clients like the Union de Grand Cru de Bordeaux in France, etc. And I was actually in Spain last week talking about wine tourism in a university program there, because one of the other things I do is I teach at Napa Valley College, and I teach wine marketing, and I teach the world of wine culture. And in fact, I'll be leaving us this evening a little early so I can go teach my students about the same stuff we're going to talk about tonight.
Perfect. And last but never least, our regional TV expert, Stub from Cork Envy.
I love that you keep rubbing in. It's just regional at this point. I'm still on TV once a month. It's awesome.
We're setting where we are, and then now you get to talk about your goals and aspirations.
Nice.
Soon to be national TV expert.
Stub from corkenvy.com. Let's say brand ambassador on television, filmmaker, wine writer, all around kind of funny, jovial guy, and glad to be with you here tonight.
Yes.
So.
Perfect. Before Stub brings us into the first topic, there's a couple videos that I wanted to share with people, and I'm going to pin it here. I'm going to talk about both of them, and then I'll pin it in Huzzah, and I will pin it over on Facebook. January, with the Texas Hill Country Wineries, has come up with this really great top of the hill country video, kind of an introduction, 2-minute overview. So anybody who's going or heading out there and wants to get that grand picture of what the hill country is, what it looks like, not just hearing it from January, but like what it looks like before you get there, please take a look at that video. It's fun and really interesting. And then the second video, it's kind of a little bit of my self-promotion, but you know what? I'm shameless because I'm very proud. On Sunday, Stub and I did our first live show that is called Beyond the Bottle. And this is different than anything we've ever done. The production value has gone up by 3,000-fold, and we really got a great opportunity to showcase last year's host, which was Loudoun County, Virginia, and we got to talk to a brewery, we got to talk to a distillery and cidery, as well as a winery in Loudoun County. So I'm going to share those 2 links. So a little old, a little new, a little bit of where we're going, a little bit of where we've been, and they're great videos, so I had to talk about them.
Hey, cool.
Yeah.
Sunday thing was fun, and January's video is great, so I'll encourage everyone to watch those as well. Right now, though, as Paul said in the introduction, he does have a class to go teach. So while we normally go in order of the days in the last shows, we're going to jump to one of the afternoon sessions, since Paul's been gracious enough to join us today to talk a little bit about what his session will be, called Modern Day PR. Yes. So once again, it's Paul Wagner from Balzac Communications. And you're kind of going with the fact, it looks like, Paul, based on the description here, that that maybe PR is not what it used to be, and we need to approach it differently? Maybe not only in general, but also in the wine world.
Well, it's actually, I'm going to change what you just said there because I'm going to disagree slightly. It is, the approach should be exactly the same, but the opportunities and obviously the media are really different. I mean, to me, the classic PR pitch is when somebody comes to me and says, I want to be on the cover of the Wine Spectator, or I want to be the featured winery in the New York Times. And of course, the reason they want to do that is it allows them to talk to one person, whether it's a Matt Kramer or a Jim Lobby or in the Times, Eric Asimov. And by talking to one person, they then can talk to a couple 100,000 people who read the magazine, or even more than that, who read the newspaper. So you talk to one person, you reach lots of customers. Big deal. What's changing, though, is programs like this that we're engaged in right now. It's Facebook, where you can, the ratio isn't quite the same. You can't talk to one person and reach 250,000 people, but you can reach more people. And so pretty much what we're going to talk about is you should still use the same basic concepts. You still need to know what you want to say. You still need to know what your audience is that you're trying to reach. But once you have those two things, there are a lot of different ways of achieving that. Maybe not quite as big bang theory as the Wine Spectator, but effective in terms of building a brand and building relationships for your winery or your region. And that's pretty important. It really opens the door for, let's be fair, Eric Asimov only writes one column a week. That means 52 wineries are going to get featured, and there are 10,000 wineries in America. So what are the other 9,948 of them going to do? They got to come up with something else.
And be completely creative. Now you're not only communications, but you're marketing too. So this session that's mainly focused on PR, but there's a great element because there are delineations when you're talking about marketing, when you're talking about PR, but would you agree that they're starting to really blur together and you have to have a really integrated strategy?
Yeah, well, I actually say PR is a function of marketing. So marketing is protection and enhancement of the brand. Marketing is developing the feel so that you can then sell more easily. PR is one of the elements you use to create good marketing. But if you don't have your clear market position, if you don't understand your clear market message, then doing PR is just flapping your lips. And so one of the things we're going to talk about is how difficult it is for small wineries to come up with a unique message. They all pretty much want to tell the same story. And one of the challenges is we've all heard that story at least once. And probably, how many wineries did I say there were? 10,000? We've probably heard it 9,000 times. And all of a sudden you're going to stand up and tell me you own a small family winery. Wow. Right. So what's different about you? Well, we have special vineyards. Well, your vineyards are just like everybody else's vineyards. So what do you really have to talk about? And that's a big challenge for wineries. But it's also a lot of fun. And I'll actually, in the session, I hope to be able to challenge some of the people in the audience to say, tell us your story and make us believe that there really is something special at the other end of that microphone.
Mark, you are a man after my own heart, just hearing that. As someone who's done, promotional marketing videos for mostly smaller wineries, to be honest.
Yep.
I'm going to give away a secret, and if anyone wants to steal it, great, because you're going to do it differently than I do. When I start even talking with a winery about potentially doing some videos for them and presenting them, because as you said, all of these wineries they're family owned, they're special, love and history.
Yeah.
I mean, they care, but they don't care. The question I ask wineries, and this is just my own little thing, is if your winery was a song, what would a song or a band, what would it be? And it makes people think from that perspective, because a lot of times they're counting on me also to do PR for them and marketing, because they don't have someone hiring me. I'm working directly with, which I know you do, and so you can kind of guide any help you bring in. So
you're basically stealing my clients. Is that what you're doing?
No, I don't know that I'm stealing your clients. I think you probably have clients that you could hire me to work with you for, quite honestly. Yeah, because I don't have the distribution channel. I mean, I'm not a professional PR person. I'm not a marketing person. Right. I consider myself more in this vein as a commercial filmmaker. is the best way to describe it. So I know where art and commerce meet, and I can give some ideas with that. But once I hand it to you, I'm not, at least at this point, and I hope to be, and I have some help, getting some help with that, be able to present these things or distribute these things for people and get them on the right channels, which is really what you're into, and kind of developing that holistic story, whether it be print, online, or whatever materials there. So I love the fact that you have that unique approach. And I've spoken too much on your time, but I noticed in the session here, you have a thing very specifically with how not to work with bloggers.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the challenge is always the same. And you used an expression I like very much, which is, what is their story? Wineries have a tendency to think about themselves as production facilities. And frankly, nobody wants to read about a production facility. They would be interested in hearing a good story. And I attended or listened to on the web a TED Talk a few years ago by a guy from Pixar. And he said, basically, when we start looking at plot lines for movies, here's what we look for to make a good story. And it's one of the things I share with my clients. What's the story behind your winery? And of course, the story, first of all, has to be, you need a main character. Who's the hero of your story? Who's the protagonist? And it is amazing how many people at the winery say, oh, well, it's not me.
Right.
And then you have to say, well, I'm sorry. Then who is it?
It's
and
the winemaker.
They're a little uncomfortable talking about themselves, and yet that's got to be what the story is. The story has to be, what's your dream? What are you trying to accomplish here? If the story is, this bottle of wine is made from Cabernet Sauvignon grapes and it's 14% alcohol and it has a pH of 3.46, boy, I'm telling you, that ain't a story.
Right. That's a wine label.
Well, it's not only a wine label. If you think of, I often encourage people to think of a wine bottle as a ticket. A ticket to travel someplace special, and you've just taken people to their high school chemistry classroom, and boy, that is not where they want to go on vacation.
Right.
I may have gotten yelled at that once or twice at a wine festival where the producer is like, don't tell them about the blend. They don't really care that it's 60% this. For me, as a wine lover, I get into it because I know what I'm supposed to expect. If I hear regionally focused, if it's this much Cab Franc, this much Cabernet Sauvignon, I know what to expect. But he's like, this is patio wine. This is you and your girls on a Wednesday night and you feel like drinking. Tell these stories and how to market, because you are marketing even at festivals.
Yep.
So I'm actually very excited, because until I went to the bloggers conference, I knew this much about what PR was in the wine industry. And, coming from, as a blogger moving into the industry, trying to get into the marketing aspect, trying to get into the live streaming capacity, and which is a part of a digital marketing strategy, basically. It's really interesting how the lines cross and who you work with, and how each different discipline interplays with one another. So I'm really
one of the things one of the things Stub asked was, I'm going to get Mark in this conversation one way or the other. Was how do you deal with bloggers? And one of the things I always say is, I look at the media. I look at a writer. I look at a blogger. I look at a radio personality. In every case, I look at them as they are a consumer. They're a consumer of stories. So my job is to create a story that's the kind of story they'd like to buy. And of course, every one of those journalists has a slightly different perspective. They have the same way consumers have a different perspective about wine. Each writer, there are journalists in America who won't write about wines that sell for more than $20, or there are people who won't write about imported wines or whatever. You got to know that stuff. So the first step is to actually read the blog, look at the podcast, understand who these people are and what they want, and then look at what you've got and say, okay, what do we have that might match up with what they're doing? It's no good writing a single press release and sending it to 450 media, because then you're basically saying, we're a winery, we make wine, write about us. And there are 10,000 of you.
Right.
So when you talk about not dealing with, but, engaging with bloggers, I mean, are you really going into the shift that is called influential marketing?
Oh, sure.
Is that where
Oh,
you're?
sure. Beyond bloggers, for example, we're huge believers in the whole quartermaster sommelier organization. With 250 or more master sommeliers, but then you've got all the advanced level students who are trying to become masters, and the intermediate students who are trying to become advanced. I mean, there are 20, 30,000 people in that program. And if we can reach out to them and make them excited about one of our clients or one of our regions, they influence a lot of people. And that, again, is one of the things that social media allows you to do, is talk to groups like that, where in the old days, the way you would have to do that is you would have to develop a brochure and mail it to 22,000 people if you could get their addresses.
Right.
Really expensive, no interaction, no feedback, no idea whether it's working. These days, you can literally via Facebook, via all sorts of other social media, develop programs that reach these folks, and you get their feedback, you get their responses, you see who's interested, you see who's not interested. Yeah, that's the smart way to go about doing it.
Awesome.
And go ahead. Well, I was going to say the other thing about bloggers is they are like every other journalist. They're too busy. For many of them, the blog is not their primary source of revenue. It's a secondary activity. And so they're looking for help. And if you can give them, as January did, a cute video that they can post, if you can give them a clever story idea, if you can give them a photograph or a cartoon or anything else that will make their blog more fun, they really appreciate it. So I always look at it from that point of view. What can I do to make their life easier? And, oh, by the way, make sure my client's name is spelled right.
And you made two really great points in there. Number one, social media is real time and highly impactful for any kind of brand, including this brand right here.
That's right.
Live streamers. So that gives me a great opportunity to say, hey, thank you to everybody in Facebook that's out there. Thank you, everybody here on Huzzah. I'm going to read a couple comments in a few minutes, but if you would take a moment right now and share this out, because I think this is so interesting, the conversation that you're starting to have here, not just for going to the conference and getting the full hour or so discussion, which is going to be amazing, but these little tidbits that we're talking about, we don't always talk about. And I enjoy it a lot. Yeah. And Jordan Winery just released another wine parody musical, which I thought just blows my mind in, moving into social media and giving something for people to tag on to, because it's so out there. I found myself very ready to share that because that's my audience is going to connect with that and really enjoy that video. Video for me is the optimum thing that I share. But that's just me.
And the only challenge for most wineries is video can be enormously powerful, but it's really easy to do pretty badly. So it's really critical. If you're going to do video, please do it well. Don't just send your cousin out there because she has a really good iPhone and let her do a video for you, because that's not going to do what you want it to do. Jordan
I really appreciate you saying that.
I know Jordan does have a lot of money, and it shows. I mean, nobody can
absolutely right.
A huge, beautiful parody, just the music rights alone to so I'm just saying. But so Mark Supsick was talking a little bit earlier in the Facebook chat. Wineries are notoriously bad at marketing themselves. They've been making high quality wine videos for over 4 years, and in most cases the winery doesn't even want a free video or know how to use it. Yes. And Mark is well connected in the Pennsylvania wine industry and worked with Wine Tourist magazine. So I think he's speaking from a great place of knowledge. I can't wait. And I want more from you, but I don't want to take any more. I don't want to take any more of your discussion away.
Let me add one more thing to the conversation, which is the other thing that the modern media is really effective at is every time someone writes a story about you, they are inevitably going to get something wrong. I mean, as the newspaper says, newspapers are not perfect. All you need to do is look at page 2. Every single newspaper on page 2 has corrections. It happens. But what modern media does is it allows you to get that correction made basically before the newspaper's printed. So instead of having a mistake that goes out and then somebody has to look for the correction 3 days later down in the bottom corner of page 2, you can see the problem, and you can identify the problem, notify the writer, and correct it almost before it's gone out. And it's a hugely important part of doing modern PR is when something is written about you that is not accurate, you do have that immediate chance of fixing it. That does not include a wine writer saying, I think this wine tastes like crap, and you call them up and say, that's a mistake. You have to take that back. That's not a mistake. They think your wine tastes like crap. Right. Too bad. Next time, figure out what they like to drink and send them something they like to drink instead of what you know how to make.
Oh, next time have a discussion with the person before you send them some wine.
Exactly.
Well, Paul, if you kind of wrapped up there, I'll definitely give you a chance to say anything else if you'd like, but I know your schedule is tight.
I'm good. That's perfect. It's been a real pleasure. January, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Texas.
Absolutely.
Paul, thank you.
Great. Paul, thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next
in
week,
a week or so. Yeah.
I will say hello to all of my students at Napa Valley College for you.
Excellent. Okay. Please do.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Cheers.
I'm sorry. So I may have geeked out a little bit between wine and marketing. Like that's my happy place. That's my research. That's everywhere that I am in the industry. So pardon, indulge me for turning. Yeah.
Paul
Cool.
Wagner. He's amazing.
So, no, he's a great guy. I've actually communicated with him before on very briefly, not about anything serious other than just saying hi. But yeah, great guy. I'm really looking forward to getting to meet him and attend his session. We jump to the afternoon with with Thursday, November 10th, which I am now going to take an opportunity to say all of you at the conference should wish me a happy birthday that day. It's not my actual birth. I'm not actually personally turning a year older, but it's a birthday that's more important to me than my actual own. It is the birthday of the Marine Corps, and the United States Marine Corps will be 241 years old on that day. Founded 10 November 1775 in Pennsylvania, and that is a big deal for me, and I'm a little upset that I will not be spending that with my favorite jarhead here at home doing shots of whiskey, and that is the Rib, who is also a Marine. So I want to start out by saying that. So you all wish me a happy birthday, and on November 10th.
And slide him a drink.
Exactly. Well, maybe not until after my session, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But we start the day out with a welcome from Sid Miller, Texas Commissioner of Agriculture. January, I think you can tell us maybe a little bit about who he is and maybe what a big deal it is that he's actually attending our conference. Yeah,
so Sid's only been our commissioner less than a year. He is a farmer and rancher background, and so he comes from this industry, this side of that. And he is going to talk to us. I know specifically that he's going to get some numbers from the High Plains Wine Growers Association. I'm going to just quit that really quickly. From Harvest this year, they're collecting that data. So we'll have some really new, cool information from that, from him. And Go Texan is a huge supporter of Texas wine and Texas wineries. And so he'll be reporting on, some of the things that they're doing and what's coming up from them.
Awesome. So yeah, I know you don't know a lot. You probably don't have a pre-thing of what he's going to say or everything. And it's a very brief 25-minute welcome, but it is a pretty big deal that we do have a Commissioner of Agriculture attending our conference, which is really cool. So I guess following that, we have our Thursday keynote by Scott Stanchak, who works for, the New York Times. He developed the Winery and Brewery Passport apps for iOS and Android, both. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with those. He teaches at NYU, I believe, and he's going to talk to us, I'm going to guess, about marketing and digital marketing and kind of the wave of the future, given his background of doing and promoting like new media with the companies that he has worked with, which are NBA, Fox News, AT&T. So the guy's worked with large companies on new and emerging media and how to engage or use that media to engage fans, followers, customers. So I think that's going to be probably a great keynote for us
And I think what's super relevant about his keynote is also that he's really focusing in on digital and mobile. Like that is the way people are going, and that's the way the consumer is going. Right. So while it may be a little pie in the sky for many wineries, maybe even tourism operations, it's something to build in and start planning for, and really focusing down on some strategies that aren't very costly, but can be very effective.
Well, I've found with all these keynotes at all of these types of conferences, and even if it's just a rah-rah, like I'm a distributor rep for this company and the distributor or the company holds a conference, they bring in someone who, for at least one keynote, who's more of a motivational speaker. And gives you some aspirational things to look up to. And I think all of these sessions will to some degree, for the people who've been chosen for these sessions, whether they're breakouts or full sessions, everyone has something to offer here. So it's a little aspirational thing and it's a little rah-rah. And, there's also this cool thing that, we're at some point going to get to probably meet and greet this guy if we go up to him and say hi, if he's around before or after. So that's a really cool aspect of this. And I think for, not only the wineries, I mean, we have to think about it from really the business perspective. You've got wineries, you've got the winery tourism boards, you have general tourism boards. So I think that's a really cool thing. And I think it's aspirational. And yeah, I mean, is everyone going to build their own app? Maybe not necessarily, but maybe him talking to them as far as emerging media and mobile marketing, using social media is going to be a good thing for everybody.
Well, even if he provides a little insight into what mobile apps are really effective for each sector that is coming out to the conference, I mean, that's something straight up to take away from there. So I'm excited to see
off the top of my head. I think he's going to say that the winery and brewery passports are pretty important to the industry.
I think so.
If I had to guess,
I think so. If you can read, and I should share that. Let me share the agenda. There's a little bit more detail on the agenda about what exactly what his background is and what he'll probably be talking about.
January, you have anything to add on the keynote here by Scott?
I think what Jen said earlier about it being relevant is true to this one. I remember the keynote speaker from a couple of years ago was kind of one of those rah-rah, came in real excited, and it lifted everybody up. It got everybody excited about the whole conference. But I think this one might be more relevant to what we're all trying to do, what we all want to do, and kind of give us a little bit more, influence on that. So I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I like that he's involved in both wine and kind of the marketing side of things.
Yeah.
Kind of as an addition to that, January, it's been 3 or 4 years back at the Wine Bloggers Conference. Our keynote speaker was Corbett Barr, who was blogger turned basically just kind of international guy making money blogging. And he had nothing to do with wine, but everything he said, in my opinion, to some degree, was so more relevant to what we were doing as bloggers and, either, writers, part-time journalists, trying to make that full-time or whatever. But the things that he had to say to me at least, seemed very relevant to us, because there were principles that went just beyond wine. We all know wine. We all love the wine industry. We're in the industry for a reason, in whatever aspect or facet of the industry we're in it for a reason. But we all have to deal with our different parts of it. So I think this is going to be really great.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I think, that really relates to like something that we deal with here on the winery side is you don't hire someone for their wine knowledge because you can teach that. You hire someone for all their other aspects, their personality, their work ethic, all that. And so it kind of relates back to what the wineries are having to do on a daily basis to listen to somebody who can just give them general information and general, direction. So.
Well, crud, I've been doing this all the wrong way. I started out with wine knowledge.
well, as did I, but at some point, the medium, was not the message, but at some point the medium got the better of me. So now I get into this, visual medium, and whether it be, pre-recorded, edited videos that I do myself or for others, or live streaming that I do with Jenn here, or some combination of both, as we did on Sunday with our first Beyond the Bottle show. So I think that there's this great, you are right about that, January, like it does, the medium and the message have to intertwine at some point, but you can teach one of those. You can teach someone at least one of those things if they're willing to learn and have any kind of aptitude whatsoever.
And thank you for the reminder to share that link out. I think the next session is something you're very intimate with, Stub.
The morning breakout sessions.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think I might be. So there are two morning breakout sessions between 10 and 11:15. The first of which I can talk about very intimately is the value of working with wine bloggers. I'll be moderating a panel with Micah Finnan from the Vineyard Trail and Alona Thompson from Palate Exposure. And we're going to give some great tips on how to work with bloggers. We're going to talk about who bloggers are and should you work with them. A little bit about what we discussed earlier in this show here, which I'm going to say absolutely yes, but you should work with the bloggers who are right for you and who fit your profile. Once again, as we said earlier. We're going to talk about that. We're going to give some best practices for working with bloggers, and we're going to give some also kind of tips on and some ideas of what skills do bloggers have that can help your winery or your your region if you're a tourism board or whatever. How to work with them and how to best appropriate their skills to work with you. And it's not always send them wine and let them write about it, or give them a free tour or a free dinner and let them write about it. Because there are some bloggers out there who, they blog for fun, but past that, they're doing something along the wine and the writing and the production. They're doing this in a professional sense as well. And you need to be aware of who those people are and what they can do for you. And, decide who you want to work with and how you want to work with them and how to best leverage the skills and abilities and the reach that wine bloggers have. So, yeah. There's that. Who has thoughts on that? Because it's going to be awesome.
Wow. Well, it's Mickey, right? Mickey.
Micah.
Micah. Why do I always say that the wrong way?
It is spelled. It does look like it's. It does look like Mickey, but it is Micah.
I feel kind of horrible about that too, because I met them both from the Vineyard Trail at the bloggers conference in Lodi. Yes. Great. I think they're a team of more than two. They're like a team of four, and they're doing a lot of
four people total there. Yes. Great website, great thing. And of course, Alona from Palate Exposure, great blog, great information there, great knowledge. And she's got a history that goes, just beyond wine and starting a wine blog. She's a journalist and photojournalist and has some great insight into the, dealing with the more professional bloggers or professionals who have started blogging and have maybe turned that into whether it's consulting or writing or hiring out as well. So both of these women have way more knowledge than I do on this and are way better. That's why I'm moderating, so I can make a few comments and then throw it to them to give you some actually great insight into everything. So
and please note that Stub is now among a panel of women. Just saying.
Well, that's true too. I don't know. That's not a surprise, but I don't know that it makes no difference. These are both very brilliant people who are great at what they do. And I'm honored and a little intimidated to be moderating this panel. But once again, I'm throwing in a few comments and just handing it over to them most of the time because they have a good amount of knowledge and experience here.
So do you think it's going to go quickly to I'm a blogger, I'm a writer, how do I monetize? Do you think
no, not at all. Not at this conference. I don't. No, not at this conference. I do think and we're setting it up to where there are some very, concrete takeaways. Okay. For, whether you're an individual winery, whether you're a tourism board or AVA region, to, how to work with bloggers and what they can deliver to you, and maybe sometimes what they can't. I mean, quite honestly as well. Because from a blogging perspective, not all bloggers are going to serve you well. And maybe at some point you're wasting your, whatever the cost of your wine is or shipping wine to them at some points as well. So we're going to be very honest about that. Probably a little self-promotional and rah-rah for bloggers, obviously, because that's the panel. But we have some good, we're going to have some great takeaways and some good information. And of course, make ourselves available after that, either in person at the conference or afterwards via email, social media or whatever. So if any of us said anything that you really loved and wanted to follow up on, you're going to be able to reach out and touch us and we'll be able to help you out and give you more information.
Perfect. I think that leads a good segue into your competition as an early morning session, working effectively with your local university wine program. January, I would love to hear what you know about this session. Let's just start out that way.
Absolutely.
I don't know the details of the session.
Okay.
But I do know Tim Dodd.
Yeah.
We work with him and the team at Texas Tech on a number of things. We partner a lot with the Hill Country University Center that y'all will pass on the way to lunch and to dinner, and a couple other events that are off-site. And that team is made up of Texas Tech professors. And, one of the things that we do here with them is we host educational seminars for the industry, but we use them a lot for our planning and our instructing, the Texas Tech instructors and professors. We try to help them obtain sponsorships and grants and what we can. That way, they in turn help us on the education part of our growers and our winemakers. We have a number of them that present at our grower field days and our winemaker field days and our symposium, and across the board. And then I know that Ernie from Fredericksburg CVB is our big connection with Conrad Hilton College. I think that he works with them a lot in getting students and interns and stuff out of there, because that's what we're all about, is hospitality. And so I'm pretty sure that that's where that connection came from, was through Ernie. So for us, that's a huge thing. We want to know how we can work with them more, how we can support them more, and then in turn, how they can support us on the educational side.
And I think that's a good way to have this discussion about the session, because we don't have anybody telling us exactly what it is. We can share our experiences. Now, working with local universities, to be complementary to a wine experience, a wine event. My personal experience is twofold: one with Maryland, University of Maryland, and a little bit with the University of Virginia. The biggest thing I've seen is in wine competitions. They will put in either tests, different wines. They will put different varietals or different wines into the competition to see how they place and how they judge. And then that's the growth. That's the agriculture. They're learning a little bit more about wine as an agricultural component. In Virginia, I remember they are the ones that are keeping all the stats. And they're the ones that are computing and doing the statistics behind grape cultivation and yields and what varietals are grown in the state of Virginia. So there's a lot with that marrying of colleges and agriculture and wine.
I agree, Jen. I'm sorry, January.
No,
I agree. I think also, though, a good part of this is, especially for up and coming wine regions so if you go to the University of Napa, there's nothing but wineries around there. So there's enology programs. There's a lot of wine, things, probably wine internships to be had. I think a big part of this also, for our purposes of this conference, is the marketing and PR and the tourism part. So if you're an up and coming wine region, and you have a small, wine board or grower association in your region, it's going to also benefit you to work with a local university's marketing program or, restaurant and tourism management programs or things like that as well, that, we wouldn't necessarily naturally say, oh, this is wine related as people in the wine industry, but, we do have the marketing and PR and other things. And as January said earlier, you can teach someone enough about the wine business to be successful PR people or marketing people in that business. So I think that out there, and it looks like from the people we have on the panel, it's going to be great. Jen, you and I personally know Jackie Saunders here from Visit Loudon, obviously. We worked with her a lot for this thing we did this last week and have known her for a while. So she's great. And I think just those aspects there of this are going to be of as much importance to people attending this session as the specific wine things will be.
What were you going to say, January? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, we've got Texas Tech and then Conrad Hilton College on the panel, but one of the universities, we work with universities across the state. So we work with Texas A&M, We work with Grayson Community College. Texas A&M has a great AgriLife extension program. They've got a lab. Yeah, so the lab in Fredericksburg, I just call it the lab because the full name is Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Viticulture and Fruit Lab. So just call it the lab. Yeah. And so when you're trying to tell somebody like, oh, I'll meet you there, or we support them, or we work with them, that's a lot. But they're based right here out of Fredericksburg, and they do a lot of research on what's growing well here, what's doing well here once it gets to the bottle. They work with the peach growers, of course, as well, which is why they're the Fruit Lab. We did a lot of fundraising, and we do a lot of extension programs with them and educational programs with them. And we work hand in hand with them every day.
Wow. I mean, it is, wine and, wine and the wine industry is agribusiness. There's so many ways that you can get disconnected with that, especially as not every winery has a vineyard behind it, but there are always grapes behind wine. So you got to kind of think about that. And I'm really excited to hear in on that panel how people are merging it.
It all starts in the vineyard, and we are farmers. At the root of this business and of this industry, we are farmers. So when people ask me about my, background and my history, I'm a farmer's daughter. I mean, that's what it is. And that's where it all starts. And so we should be working with them.
Yeah.
That is true.
Very, very, very true.
All right, I'm gonna grab the reins here.
You do that.
Like a farmer behind a mule.
There you go. He's grabbing the tractor reins.
No, just because we've rambled pretty well, and I want to give everything great, but not run too far over our hour here. The next set of breakout sessions we have is modern day PR as an option, which we talked with Paul about early on, and the other one is the state sponsored tourism promotion. Dealing with, hey, does your state do enough? And I actually misspoke. This is the panel that Jackie Saunders is on, not the previous one.
Oh, okay.
So sorry about that. So yeah, this is about, I guess, working with your state to potentially get money for your region, your winery. I'm guessing more specifically with regions and your AVAs here.
I love the first question. It says, does your state do enough to promote tourism in general and wine tourism in particular? I mean, I think that kind of sets the stage for what this discussion is going to be about, because there is a lot of conflict. I mean, maybe at the state level, unless you're in California or maybe New York, maybe Washington and Oregon, maybe there's a disconnect between what the state finds for tourism and what the state funds for tourism in the wine sector. So I think there's a lot of people that are going to be interested in that discussion right there.
But January, y'all down there do a lot of work with other entities that aren't specifically wine, right? With the Texas Wine Trail, like y'all do some stuff with other things that people can go when they're touring the area, correct?
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we're trying to work with Go Texan and TDA on. Linda Ryan, who will be at the conference, they're one of the big sponsors, and so she'll be there starting Tuesday. Y'all will meet her. She wants to work with us on how we combine other industries with wine. How we combine the peach industry, or the cheese makers, here in the Hill Country, and then of course there's the beer and the distilleries and stuff. Just goes hand in hand as it is. But that's something that we want to do. We want to work with those other entities about, you can come taste wine and then you can go, check out a cheese maker or whatever it might be out here.
Right.
And so that's how we're working with TDA specifically, how to connect all that stuff.
Awesome.
And remind us what TDA stands for.
Texas Department of Ag. And then under them is Go Texan.
Gotcha.
And then they've got, different entities of Go Texan. Bobby Champion, who's on this panel, he used to be with wine, and so we all call him the wine guy.
Nice.
As everybody I'm sure knows from the past, they cut our budget, and so we lost Bobby Champion, who went to Shrimp, and so he's now with Shrimp, but he was really behind. He was the driving force behind the Texas Wine Passport, all of the great marketing materials they put out for years. And then when he went away and the money went away, that all disappeared. And now we've got Linda in that position. She's not just dedicated to wine, though, which is, I think, stretching her pretty thin, and she's doing an amazing job for us as she can. I think that will start coming back.
Sure.
Good.
Cool.
Yeah. I always find it very strange. Like in Maryland, alcohol tax is 9%. I'm like, I can't understand that how the state doesn't try to find every which way to promote something like that. 9% of the tax comes back to the state. But I mean, we'll see. We'll wait for the panel. I can't wait. I cannot wait to hear the discussion.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to say too, because for us as an association, we're a nonprofit association on our own. And so we do a little bit of work. We collaborate with TDA and Go Texan, but we don't get a ton of money. We're not funded by them.
Right.
So I love to hear how Colorado does it, and Virginia and Missouri and all those states that are funded by them. I'm always interested to see how that works for them.
Cool.
Yeah, because you want to take the best of things and try to apply them to you and share your knowledge and help other people do that too.
Absolutely. So we're gonna go from that great panel for all the Uber in the weeds accounting people, which are a good number of people attending this conference, I know, and that's a very important part of our industry. But then we're gonna have a little fun, and we're gonna go to Becker for lunch. I've attended there, or I've actually toured Becker, and it's a beautiful facility, and I'm looking forward to it. Can you give us any tips or secrets on lunch, January, or are you gonna leave us in suspense and just say it's beautiful and you'll have fun?
No, I mean, Becker is one of our oldest wineries in the state. They're one of our oldest members. Don't know. We'll be in the Lavender House, which is kind of their event space inside, and then it's a buffet lunch. So if you want to stay inside, you can. If you want to sit out on the grass, you can. If you want to sit under the pavilion, it'll be kind of a free for all as to what you want to experience out there. We will be greeted by Nicole Bendelay, who's the tasting room and public relations manager out there, Brett Pernew, who is the general manager, and I'm sure John Leahy, who is the winemaker. We never know about the Beckers themselves, though, because Dr. Becker is still a practicing physician in San Antonio, so we just never know his schedule. So we just hope that they're able to make it. But I don't know the details of the tasting. So that's kind of a secret. I mean, I know the food, of course. I mean, we do all that, but I don't know what we're tasting and how that will be set up. I don't know if we're doing a tasting or if it'll just be, wine with lunch, or how that's going to work. So that'll be good to see when we get out.
Awesome. And are we going to get to hear? I'm hoping from them some of their story, because they've been around a while and are kind of pioneering in the wine industry there in the old country.
They are. They were established in 1992. So they're, like I said, they're one of our oldest and one of our largest wineries. But no matter who speaks, it'll either be Nicole or Brett or John. We've asked them to talk about the history of Becker. One of the things I can tell you, as I am drinking my favorite pink.
I was going to say.
Yeah, so pink is my favorite thing in the whole world.
You and Aerosmith.
Is Becker was the first winery in Texas to produce a rosé. So they are our pioneers in that field.
Nice.
Well, let's hope there's rosé.
There's always rosé.
There's going to be
Okay,
rosé.
good. Okay. It's like let's hope there's rosé.
What I failed to mention is I've actually visited Becker twice because I like it so much there. It's gorgeous. Yeah, I don't get a lot of time in the hill country when I go down, but I'm like, oh, Becker, I'm going to go back to Becker. It's really awesome.
Yeah, and there's
so that's
great things there with John, and then as far as the wines, and then as far as the facility itself.
Sure, cool.
I hope we have a beautiful day. That's what I can say, and I'm sure it'll be amazing food because y'all know hospitality like no other. So
okay.
I butchered that.
Wow,
a little bit.
I'm going to take this transition. That was awful.
They can't all be perfect, okay,
So we returned from lunch, and our next session is an entire group session titled "Perspectives on Wine Tourism from Emerging Regions," where there are, it looks like 48 people speaking here. If you go through the agenda,
exactly 48 people.
No, there's a goodly number here. But we're going to hear from people talking about the challenges that they have and continue to have in their emerging wine regions.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool.
Yes.
And in that vein, I did not tell anyone, and there's no one on the panel from the state, but I opened tonight an Oak Spring Winery Cabernet Sauvignon 2012 from Pennsylvania, and they're not on the panel here, but and I don't know that Pennsylvania would be considered an emerging wine region yet, but there's wine in Pennsylvania, and so I opened that as a tribute to very specifically this panel because I had open wine tonight.
Well, I should have opened a bottle of Maryland wine because I didn't realize because Rebecca is Gushin. She just got married not too long ago, so that's why I didn't recognize her last name. But she works with Grow and Fortify, and she works with the Maryland Wine Association, and she's super smart about the way the industry is, not just from wine but from beer and spirits and how they compare with one another. And then we have our friend Kristen Ballard from Nebraska, who was going to be on the show tonight, but unfortunately she had a family emergency. But I just love that it's Maryland, Nebraska, South New Jersey, Nova Scotia. Wow. What else? Georgia. I'm excited to hear about that because they have like 20 total wineries in that state.
Wow.
And I'm guessing from the name, it's the state, not the country.
I that's where I was going with that.
I don't want to make assumptions, however.
I know. And then Oklahoma and New Mexico, who I think we all met the rep from New Mexico, Chris Goblet, last year. I remember meeting Arizona, and I look at this as like a beauty pageant. I'm like, you're the person. You're Miss New Jersey. You're Mr. New Jersey. That's how I'm kind of looking at this. But I remember meeting Arizona and New Mexico, and I was like, wow, that's fascinating to hear about your industry. It's unique and something I wouldn't have thought about.
Up and coming. I talked to Colorado last year. Jersey, I don't know. I think I may have talked to Devin, but I know I talked to people from Jersey over the last couple of years at a couple of different conferences. So interesting regions here. I think this is going to be a cool thing. January, do you feel like that Texas is still kind of up and coming, or do you feel like you've gathered, kind of come into your own a little bit?
I think we've come into our own. I really do. You know, I did this panel 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I love this session because I mean, so it must have been 3 years ago that I did it, because 2 years ago, I remember Kentucky's presentation, and it was great. And I love hearing about what they do and how they're, you know, working. And I will tell you, it is 8 minutes. They give us 8 minutes, and you have.
They actually say 5 on here.
Is it 5 now? Well,
yeah, I think it's as little as 5, which is crazy.
There were less speakers when I did it. There were like 6 of us. I think there's 11 of them now.
11
so,
now, yeah.
So for us, it was 8 minutes, and it is a hard 8 minutes because you feel like you want to give everybody all of the information about your state or your region and what you're doing and what's working and what's not working. And you can't do that in 8 minutes, 5 minutes, for crying out loud. So I just urge you to talk to these people, search them out before their session.
Oh, what a good idea.
2 days before, you know, Tuesday pre-conference workshops, and then, you know, Wednesday conference. Talk to them before, get a little bit of a feel so that when they're up there talking, you know what they're trying to say, because they only have 5 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, and afterwards, but you know, afterwards we're all ready to head out. So, just kind of give them a break and do a little bit more research on them and those regions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a really good transition, because it's a hard sell after that. You know what's coming up next at 4:15 to 4:30? It's the conference close and the announcement of where the conference is next year. So the poor guy from South New Jersey, who may be last on that list, is going to be like, okay, we want to hear about this.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I completely echo your sentiment. Like, this will be towards the end, so definitely make the time out there to get to know people from different regions and see what, you know, expand your idea of what wineries are in the U.S., not just California, not just New York, not Washington or Oregon. And, you know, maybe they'll have wines to taste too.
Yeah. And these people are also not only using best practices that they've learned from other regions who were formerly emerging, but they're having to be very, very creative. From a tourism perspective. I don't think if you say Kentucky wine to most people, they're going to be like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to Kentucky to taste wine. Like no one's like, not that maybe they've got a great, I don't know a lot about the industry, but
I will tell you, once you meet Tyler, you will want to go to Kentucky. He's awesome.
And that's great. But my point being, like, they're not only using some best practices in marketing and PR, but they're probably doing some innovative things as well to rebrand some of these areas that from where they come as actual legitimate wine regions. I mean, Nebraska, no one thinks of Nebraska as a wine region.
No.
But if you talk to Chris, like she's very excited about Nebraska wines.
Yeah, she is.
And once again, makes you want to go to there, to quote Liz Lemon. So
well, and
I think that's great.
True. That's so true. I mean, that's what happens with us. It's taken us years and we still get it. I mean,
right.
Oh, there's wine in Texas?
Wine, you grow grapes. What is it? Cactus wine? I mean, we get that all the time.
Does anyone actually make cactus wine though?
Oh, that's a fair question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I brought it up. I'm sure someone's tried.
I've had jalapeno wine, which I think is just infused with jalapeno, but still wine, and that was no joke.
Vinified from jalapenos.
That was no joke. My friend was like, "Oh, it's the best thing ever." I'm like, "No, it's no joke."
We did have one of our members that made jalapeno wine, but I cannot say that any of our members that I have tasted or visited or learned about. Yeah, the old Comfort Cellars had the jalapeno wine, Lori, but not the cactus.
Cool. All right, so that's the conference. I'm just transitioning. We're coming up right about an hour here. We're going to get the announcement of where the conference will be next year.
Where do you think it's going to be? Okay, you got to do a predictive, like right now. Where do you think it's going to be next year?
January, can I ask you very honestly, do you have any insight into this?
I do, and so I
okay. So you can't. So she's pretty and that's what I thought. That's why I wanted to respectfully ask you that.
A couple weeks ago, but I do now. So
okay.
Yeah, we asked you about it. They're like, oh.
I also know that you start. I know that the way these things go, that you're working with people who are hosting the conference the following year. That's why I know that there's a lot of collaboration on that. That's why I asked you. And I'm not going to ask you to betray that confidence. Jen, what do you think?
I'm thinking Michigan.
Michigan, interesting.
I mean, it's also year 2 of New Mexico out here. And now they're on a panel.
What do you mean? I actually was going to go with New Mexico personally.
That could be fun if it were the balloon festival time. Oh my god!
I'm going to admit, Jen or I, or if Jen does, she hasn't told me, have no insight whatsoever into who Zephyr's working with. We're just making some crazy guesses here.
Yeah, we are.
So we're gonna find out where the conference is, and then we are going to depart to.
Stub, you didn't give us your prediction. What?
I did. I said
he was going to say New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was going to say
my prediction is New Mexico.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Announcement of the conference, and we're going to go to an awesome dinner at one of the best places ever in the history of Earth to eat, and also have some great wine. And January, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
So we're actually making 2 stops. We're going to go the bus in Fredericksburg, and then you're going to. The first stop will be Fall Creek Vineyards in Driftwood. In Driftwood. So the original location is in Taos, Texas. Fall Creek was established in 1975 by Ed and Susan Aller. They also formed the Texas Hill Country AVA, and so they are Texas wine royalty, you could say. It's one of the oldest vineyards and wineries in our operation, or in our Hill Country region. But of course, that's 80 miles from Austin. It's about 80 miles from Fredericksburg. So that's a little bit far for dinner. But they, not too long ago, I think about 2 years ago, opened Fall Creek Vineyards Driftwood. And so they've got a tasting room there. I'm not sure that they make any wine on site there because it's all done up in Taos. And so we'll be going there first. And doing a tasting of the Fall Creek wines with Ed and Susan. And then we'll load the bus and take the short 3-minute trip across the street.
Okay.
Yeah, across the street to Salt Lake Cellars, Salt Lake Cellars. Salt Lake Barbecue also has Salt Lake Cellars on
also
site.
True.
I just can't get wine off my mind. I can't.
Right.
So from there, I'm going to let Stub talk about the barbecue because that's his thing.
Because he kind of.
I am so excited. As you all know, I am from Texas, and barbecue doesn't exist outside of Texas officially. I'm fairly certain. So living on the East Coast all these years, I relish any time I get to go have barbecue and step into this beautiful, huge place and see just fire and things smoking from brisket, sausages, ribs. It's amazing. And yeah, this is not shredded vinegar soaked pig like you're used to on the East Coast, if that's the barbecue, you know. This is amazingly, beautifully, mostly mesquite, I'm guessing, or as that I know of, mesquite, and I know there's some oak and hickory used. Yeah, they just use all kinds of. It's amazing. It's literally, if you like smoked meats, this is heaven for you. Like, this is, yeah, you're making your pilgrimage to one of the best barbecue places on the planet.
The barbecue Mecca, is that what you're saying? We're making
It's a pretty awesome place. I will tell you, traveling through, if it's lunchtime and I pass Salt Lick, like, I'm gonna go in there and get like a 3-meat platter. And then the rest of the day, I have to force myself to not fall asleep driving wherever I'm going to and from after that. Because you just have to have it. It's one of those things. It's like a kid on Halloween with all his candy. You eat all of the candy in front of you because it's there and it's delicious. The difference being, most kids can get most candy. If you're not in this area, you can't get this delicious barbecue anywhere else unless you're in the area. So there you go.
Wow, I don't know that you could have topped that, January.
No.
There was so much passion and conviction in his diatribe on barbecue.
I leave the barbecue to the experts, so I wasn't going to try.
Well, with Stubbs pontification,
so if you haven't registered for that optional reception at barbecue dinner, you got to do it, and then come watch me looking like I don't know, like I've just been to church, gnawing on a rib or a brisket with a piece of white bread slapped around it, because it's going to be amazing.
The white bread, the breast.
There are about 193 or so attendees that are on the schedule right now, and Robin did say more and more are signing up. So I look forward to meeting all 193 of those. I think that this versus the Bloggers Conference, I feel like this is an opportunity where you could really get to meet a ton of people. It's very focused in meeting and exchanging business cards and thinking of ways to collaborate or work with one another. So I'm super excited about the conference in less than a week. Oh my God. I'm getting on a plane on Friday. Cannot believe that.
Thursday for me was supposed to leave today, leaving Thursday instead though. Decided I had some other stuff to do before I left. So very excited.
So I think final thoughts and then we'll sign off.
I mean, I will tell y'all that we did.
January?
Sorry.
No, go ahead, January.
I was just gonna say, I'll tell y'all that we did the walkthroughs today at the conference center in Fredericksburg, and then out at Lukenbach, which is gonna be really, really cool. I mean, I knew it was gonna be cool, but then when I got out there and I saw where we're gonna have the chuck wagon, and then where we're gonna have the German food and the Tex-Mex and the wine, and we're gonna have Bill Peary doing photos on his super cool vineyard backdrop. I mean, it's gonna
wear flats.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Good call.
I will say, wear your boots. I mean, we've talked about this the last couple weeks. You know, Stubbs bringing his boots. Of course, I'm bringing all mine. But we're going to be in Lukenbach. We're going to be out at William Chris. You're going to want to walk around Becker. You're going to want to walk around Woodrose. So bring your boots.
That might be my mission when I'm in Dallas.
Yeah.
To potentially find a pair of boots because I don't own any.
Oh, I'll send you some links to some places to shop.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
For sure.
All right, Stub. Anything last words wise other than barbecue? You're not allowed to talk about barbecue.
No, I actually, if you want to buy some boots in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and you want some boots and want a deal that fits you right from toe to heel, go to Western Warehouse. It's an old commercial with the silver symbol, and I just remember.
I knew he had that. It was like he was just waiting for that.
No, so looking forward to this. I'm very excited. Once again, part of it's because I'm coming home for almost 2 weeks in all parts of Texas, but this is a great conference. It is fun, but you get a lot of great professional contacts and professional interaction out of it while having a really, really great time. This is unlike most forced fun corporate conventions or conferences that you can attend sometimes, where there's a lot of rah and this and that. We get that.
And then
we
no
get some
alcohol.
Yeah, we get some great information, and it's good stuff. And no one's upset if you're boozing it up at 2:00 in the afternoon. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty good conference.
Kind of ruined all conferences for me, by the way.
Great conference, put on by great people, and both from Zephyr, and obviously Texas Hill Country is just killing it for us. The Texas wine, and we're very excited.
And definitely visit Fredericksburg.
Yeah, I don't want to leave anyone out. Like, everything is coming together, and
so great.
January, thank you for joining us on these live streams.
Yes, thank you.
Not just this one, but the previous ones. We know it's a bit of a pain coming on and dealing with this, but I think it's been informative, and we've received feedback that people are really enjoying this. So people going to, and even people not going to the conference, who may consider going in the future because of these. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you next week.
Yes.
All right.
A week. 1 week.
Nice.
So everybody else out there in Facebook, we're going to say goodnight now. Don't forget to join us Thursday. So Thirsty Thursday is for Wine Antics Live. We'll have Amanda Barnes from Around the World in 80 Harvest, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, if you'd like to join the chat, we're over on huzzah.io/bottle TV. Come join the discussion. We'll be on for at least
a little while.
half an